What is going on, everybody? We are back in the race shop. We took a little break. 2 weekends ago was the snowball, so we were down there, and then last weekend we just didn't really film, didn't do a whole lot, but we did get the motor situated finally. Got our motor mounts in and got it mounted, so that's good. Got the throttle in there. Finishing up my foot box. Got to do a little work to my brake pedal still. Try and give myself some room. Starting to get front suspension stuff on to stay. Getting brakes on and good bearings in the hubs and whatnot. Getting all the right stuff put on the hubs. So we made some pretty good progress. Like I said, definitely glad that we got the motor in last weekend. So we've at least gotten past that bump in the road, so that's good. Alright, so I've been fooling this brake I have been fooling with this brake all day. Dad's been doing all sorts of stuff, but we finally got something that works. So originally we had this pedal before it was cut, looked like that, and then we cut it, and actually a while ago, like a year ago, when it was in this car, I cut it and then machined that right there at an angle so that the brake set, you know, further back to give me more room. Well, that wasn't enough on this car, so we cut that back off, and then I machined us another brake pedal that was going to weld onto right there. And the idea was this one, you know, steps back a little, whereas this one is bowed out forward. So we'll put it on there. Actually, you can see what a great welder I am. My brother's a welder by trade and did the pedal originally, and it looks a lot better than mine. But either way, just tacked it on there, set it in there, realized this pedal was not going to work, took this pedal off, and the entire pedal itself, I took these pedals, a brand new set of Tiltons, and went to put them in the car and see how they would fit. Well, the pattern on the back, the stud pattern, is different than the studs, or the holes for the studs in the foot box on this car. So I can't even use them in my car. So I'm actually selling these. So if you want them, let me know. They've never been used. They've just sat in a cabinet. But after that, we made this pedal down in here that works finally. That is a Coleman pedal that we took and yet again, yeah, we remanufactured it about 7 times. We cut and welded it and then took it off its little mount, because the bolt pattern also didn't match the foot box. So I took this off, put the brake pedal back on the original bracket for the original brake, that old Tilton, and milled down the sides of that Coleman pedal to make it fit in the Tilton bracket. So now we got a brake that fits properly and is a lot more comfortable after I don't know how much moving around and cutting and welding and machining and everything else, but finally got a good brake pedal in there. Only took me all day. Also, on a little side note, on this car, on the left-hander that we redid, we run AP brakes, and those are the same brakes that came off this car. Well, they're so old that they don't even make parts for them anymore, and I think we found like 2 rebuild kits, but the salesman had to personally go find them. Like they just happened to have them sitting in the warehouse or something. Yeah, like we got the last set of rebuild kits that they ever made. So if that tells you how old the stuff we're running is, at least on that car. And then we were going to do we've got 2 sets of them. We were going to run the other set on this car, but Dad ran to the parts house the other day, and they had a set of Willwoods, some pretty nice Willwoods there that had only been raced one time, the dude said, and they were like more than half off, so we bought them. Thought we got a pretty good deal on them. So now, at least all we had to do later on is buy parts for them instead of spending the almost $5 grand it is to buy them new. So that was a pretty good deal. So once again, Bruce over at Allied has just been treating us like no other. Yesterday we got a little mini lathe, which I've already got out and have been working on setting up, and then we got a bandsaw in there. That bandsaw is going to be super useful for cutting tubing and whatnot for making more race cars. So, like I said, I got the mini lathe kind of set up already. It's a cool little deal, man. I was surprised all the stuff it came with. Like, stuff that you wouldn't expect to be on a mini lathe. It's got a little face plate, and it's got a second set of chuck jaws. It's got an ID set of chuck jaws and an OD set of chuck jaws. So I thought that was pretty cool. Comes with extra gears. Of course they're plastic, but you know, it's a mini lathe. It'll be all right. It's got a little steady rest. Steady rest is only the size of my hand. Cute little thing. It's got a lathe dog for turning between centers. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's technically not a live center. It's a dead center. So I don't know exactly how that's gonna work. I feel like you would burn your part up turning it on a dead center like it was a live center, but I'll see about that and see if maybe they make a live center for these. But it's got a little tiny tailstock. It'll do single point threading, which is crazy. I didn't expect it to be able to do that. Auto feeds, all that good stuff. It'll turn 2,500 RPM. That's pretty cool. It'll turn aluminum pretty good, I imagine. I mean, it's pretty neat. I was impressed with all the stuff this little lathe could do. The only thing that it didn't come with, and they may sell it and it just not have come with it, but the only thing I would have liked would have been a drill chuck, a little tiny drill chuck to go in there. But I imagine with how small tailstock is, I don't know how big of a drill you could put in your drill chuck, but nevertheless, man, a cool little lathe. I thought it was really neat. And the bandsaw, like I said, the bandsaw is going to be huge. It's going to be so much easier to cut tubing and material now. It's going to be insane versus trying to use a chop saw. So Bruce has just been outstanding. I mean, you know, all this stuff that he's got us that, you know, it may not be cash in hand, but it sure is worth a ton to be able to make so much of this stuff in-house versus sending it out to someone or you know, having to buy it from someone, whatever. So we've saved a lot of money being able to do all this on our own versus having someone do it, and that's been big for allowing us to race more. So he's been a huge help in our racing. All right, after having this thing set up and I ran one little tiny part on it, now we're getting to make our first little race car part on it, or work on a race car part, which is like the whole point of getting this thing is doing just little stuff like this. So I figure I'll show y'all it in action if I can get a decent camera angle of it. I think it'll be pretty cool. Alright, I've got y'all set up on the tailstock, so hopefully you don't fall over. It's a little spring-loaded chuck key. I get the idea of it, but it's also kind of tough to do anything without it jumping back out. not too bad. So it looks pretty good for a little tiny lathe and a high-speed steel cutter. Alright, working on the exhaust, getting it ran back and out the door so that we can get everything painted and whatnot and get it on there to stay. This always one of Dad's favorite parts of putting together a race car is doing the exhaust on it. Due to how high a crate motor sits and the raised cross member on our car, we have a tough time getting an airbox to fit on there. And there's people who run them 5-star boxes that are like real thin, but we already had this one and we didn't want to buy a new one considering how expensive they are. So Dad cut the top off of that one. Normally they bow up right there. He cut the top off of it and took a fiberglass repair kit and made us a top for this airbox so that we didn't have to buy a new one and we could continue to use this one and make it work on the car. Dad got his airbox finished up. Doesn't look too bad considering it was done by some big old bug-eyed dummy rednecks. I think it'll get the job done. Hinges on the fender. You're going to slam that template down, man. This is really wearing it. Yeah, that's good up there. Alright guys, I'm sitting here editing this video and I realized I never did an outro, so as always, I appreciate you guys watching, especially if you watched this whole video. I know it was kind of all over the place. We did a little bit of everything because it was like, at this point, 2 full weeks worth of filming, just kind of everything. I just kind of threw some of the highlights in there. Not as on track as some of the other videos are, but like I said, we're getting close to being done with that car, and we're just trying to get everything put together and get ready to go test ahead of the Rattler. So if you stuck along through the crazy video, I appreciate it. I'm posting this on Christmas night, so I hope everybody had a good and safe Christmas. And if you hadn't already, like and subscribe, tell your friends about it. Our last video got 1,000 views, which isn't a lot, but it was pretty crazy for me because that's the first thing we've had over a couple hundred. So that was super cool. Hopefully this one will do as well. So I appreciate it. I'll catch y'all in the next one.